Good afternoon everybody, I hope you're all doing okay. How are you all, especially after the news this week that some of us might be going back to school again, which is fantastic, but how are we all feeling about that? Let me know. This week we are reading The Snail and The Whale by Julia Donaldson. As you all know by now, I love Julia Donaldson, and this one is another favourite of hers. This week when I'm reading, I was just thinking that now you could pause my video, really engage with the story. There's a lot of rhyming words in here and it's a fantastic book for that. You could pause the video at different points, see if you can guess, see if you can see what we're going to say next and what the book says next, and really get that engagement in there. And yeah, have a think about how you might feel to be the snail on the whale. But more about that, here's to the reading. I hope you enjoy.
The Snail and the Whale by Julia Donaldson. This is the tale of a tiny snail and a great big grey-blue humpback whale. This is a rock as black as soot, and this is a snail with an itchy foot. The sea snail slithered all over the rock and gazed at the sea and the ships in the dock. As she gazed and sniffed and sighed, the sea is deep and the world is wide. How I long to sail, said the tiny sea snail. There are other snails in the flock, who all live on the smooth black rock. And said to the snail with the itchy foot, be quiet, don't wriggle, sit still, stay put. But the tiny sea snail sighed and sniffed, then cried, I've got it, I'll hitch a lift. This is the trail of the tiny snail, the silverest trail that looped and curled and said, lift wanted around the world. This is the whale who came one night when the tide was high and the stars were bright. A humpback whale immensely long, who sang to the snail a wonderful song of shimmering ice and coral caves, of shooting stars and enormous waves. And this is the tale of the humpback whale. He held his tail out at the starlit sea and said to the snail, come sail with me. This is the sea, so wild and free, that carried the whale and the snail on his tail to towering icebergs and far off lands, with fiery mountains and golden sands. There are the waves that arched and crashed and foamed and frolicked and sprayed and splashed the tiny snail on the tail of the whale. These are the caves beneath the waves, the stripy fish with the feathery fins, and the sharks with hideous teethy grins swarm around the whale and the snail on his tail. This is the sky so vast and high, sometimes sunny and blue and warm, sometimes filled with a thunderstorm, with zigzag lightning flashing and frightening the tiny snail on the tail of the whale. As she sat and gazed at the sky, the sea, the land and the waves, and the caves and the golden sand, she gazed and gazed, amazed by it all. She said to the whale, I feel so small. But then came the day the whale lost his way, and there are speedboats running a race, zigging and zagging all over the place, upsetting the whale with their ear-splitting roar, making him swim too far to the shore. This is the tide slipping away, and this is the whale lying beached in a bay. Quick, off the sand, back to the sea, cried the snail. I can't move on land, I'm too big, moaned the whale. The snail felt helpless and terribly small. Then, I've got it, she cried, and started to crawl. I must not fail, said the tiny snail. This is the bell of the school in the bay, bringing the children in from their play. This is the teacher, holding her chalk, telling the class, sit straight, don't talk. This is the board as black as soot, and this is the tail with the itchy foot. A snail, the teacher turned pale. Look, say the children, it's leaving a trail. This is the trail of a tiny snail, a looping, curling, silvery trail, saying, "Save the whale." These are the children running from school, fetching the firemen who are digging a pool, squirting and spraying to keep the whale cool. This is the tide coming into the bay, and these are the villagers shouting hooray as the whale and the snail travel safely away. Back to the dock and the flock on the rock, who said, "How time's flown, and haven't you grown?" And the whale and the snail told their wonderful tale of shimmering ice and coral in waves, and shooting stars and enormous waves, and how the snail, so small and frail, with the looping, curling, silvery trail, saved the life of the humpback whale. Then the humpback whale held out his tail, and on crawled snail after snail after snail, and they all sank to the sea as they set sail on the tail of the grey-blue humpback whale.
Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. What was your favourite part? Tell me about it. Where would you go if you were a snail on the tail of a whale? There are so many places in the world and so many places to see, but where would you go if you had the chance? Maybe go back and talk to your parents about how maybe the snail and the whale were feeling at different points in the story, and what do you already know about snails and whales? What more would you like to know about them? Maybe go away, do a little bit of research and let me know all about it in the comments. But yeah, as always, thank you so much for joining me. It's been an absolute pleasure. And until next time, keep on reading.